welcome to the candidate forum for the position of Prairie Hills School District 144 Board of Education. There are 4 openings for candidates in this election. There will be 7 names on your ballot, and tonight we have 4 of the candidates here. Thank you all. Thank you for taking time to attend this event and for striving to be well-informed voters. I'm Carolyn Cosentino, and tonight I'll be co-moderating this forum with Erin Roper. We're both members of the League of Women Voters of Homewood-Flossmoor area. Our thanks to the Village of Hazel Crest for allowing us to use this facility this evening. In accordance with the League of Women Voters protocol, Erin and I were chosen to moderate this forum because we are not residents of Hazel Crest and do not have a vested interest in the outcome of this election. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We're pleased to provide this service for the community. The League is open for membership for any citizen age 16 or older. If anyone here is interested in joining the League, there are brochures on the table outside the room, or you may speak to any member assisting the forum. Holding candidate forums has long been a core activity of the League of Women Voters, and we have developed a set of protocols that will be followed this evening. The candidates were provided an advance copy of the guidelines and the format that will be used, and they have signed an agreement that they will follow these guidelines as a condition of their participation. I will take a few moments to review the rules as a reminder for the candidates and so that you, the audience, will know what to expect. But next I'd like to introduce to you the League members who are helping with tonight's forum. Up front, the timers here are Jessica Green and George Roper, and you'll see paddles with time limits getting sort of flashed in the air, and that's to help our speakers have a sense of their time. Our screeners at the back, Dr. Mimi Smith, Katie Atkins-Tramnell, Yvette Harris-Black, and their work is to help with questions that you may write down and make sure we're not duplicating questions and that the questions are clear. And then our greeter, Veronica Amon, and Pat Jackson has been coordinating all of this work, and Mary Griffin has been also coordinating this, so we certainly thank them. So welcome to everyone. All right, the guidelines for tonight. Candidates have drawn numbers to determine the order in which they will give opening statements. Closing statements will be in reverse order. So when we have the opening statements, we'll start from this end and go through, and then at the very end, the closing statements will start at the end of the table.
Carol, it's the opposite.
Oh, your number? Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. So it will be the far end of the table is number 1, then 2, 3, 4, and then we'll start from here. All right, the candidate who makes the first opening statement will move to the end of the line for the first question, and this rotation will continue throughout the question period. Opening statements shall be no more than 2 minutes. Closing statements shall be no more longer than 2 minutes. When the allotted time has expired, candidates will be allowed to finish a sentence before the moderator interrupts. Following opening statements, written questions submitted by the audience on the cards provided by our volunteers will be read by the moderator. Candidates will alternate answering the first question with no more than a 90-second answer. The League reserves the right to screen the questions for duplication and clarity. Questions are to address issues, not personalities. Time will be kept by League of Women Voter members, and countdown cards will be visible to the moderator and the candidates. We will try to cover as many topics as possible so you have as much information about the candidates as you need to make an informed choice. Signs, buttons, campaign buttons, placards will not be allowed inside the meeting room. The distribution of campaign literature will not be permitted inside the meeting room, but there may be some materials outside. The league sponsoring this forum, LWVHF area, claims copyright to ownership of any tapes, videos, or other transcripts produced. The league is recording tonight's forum and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. We ask that you refrain from making expressions or agreement or disagreement so as not to disrupt the forum. At the end of the forum, you will have an opportunity to applaud all the candidates. Your courtesy and cooperation are appreciated. At this time, we will ask that the candidates put away their electronic devices and that all members of the audience silence their phones and any other phones or devices. And I will now turn the podium over to Mrs. Roper.
Thank you, Carol. Again, welcome candidates. We're happy to have you with us tonight. So we're going to begin with candidate Mrs. Taylor with your opening comments. Opening statement, I should say.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and thank you for inviting me out to speak with you this evening. Again, my name is Kathy Taylor. I've served on the board, Prairie Hill School Board, for a total of 18 years.
They can't hear you.
Oh, okay, can you hear me now? I've served on the board for a total of 18 years. I got on the board in '98, and I served 4 terms then, and now I'm currently at the end of my 4th term here right now. I am currently the vice president of the school board, and let's see what else I want to say. And I got on the board because I wanted to make sure that each child was treated equally. And it's ironic because now it's 18 years later and it's finally come out in equity. They call it equity now. So it's interesting to see that it took 18 years to get to this point, and COVID. So it's interesting, it's like, wow, finally someone knows that there's a problem and they're trying to fix it.
Dr. Sai.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Sainda Musaindapo. I go by Dr. Sai. And I am not on the board, and I feel, first of all, I just want to say how honored I am to be able to spend time with these wonderful women who've been a legacy in our community, a legacy since I was a student in the high schools locally here. And I think that it's part of my responsibility as an up-and-coming member of the community to amplify their voices and amplify their legacy. So that's first and foremost. I've been in education for over 20 years. I graduated from Rich Central, I went to Brennan, and then I went off to Northern where I got my education degree and taught middle school for 3 years before going back to Northern to get my master's. And at that time I taught English and developmental reading and writing at NIU through the CHANCE program before getting my doctorate in adult and higher education and working as the coordinator of retention and student success at Kishwaukee College. So that's the professional stuff. I then moved away to Denver, Colorado, and then in 2020 when civil unrest popped up, I realized that I wanted to come back and raise my son in the community that raised me, and I felt a responsibility to contribute to that community, so I joined Hazel Crescent's Planning and Zoning Commission, where I've been a Planning and Zoning Commissioner for the last 2 years. I'm also speaking of equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, consultant and executive coach. And my day job, I work with faculty across 30 universities and 70 degree programs. I oversee a team that coaches about 5,000 faculty every day. So education is my life through and through, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Ms. Nettles.
Good evening, I'm Barbara Nettles. I'm so happy to have a young woman following in our footsteps. I have been in education my entire life. I am from a long legacy of teachers. I taught in Chicago Public Schools for 35 years. I retired as principal out of Chicago Public Schools. When I retired, I always lived out here in Hazel Crest. So the school across the street was the Highland School. I went over there and started volunteering at the Grandparent Reading Program. I volunteered there for many years until our former mayor, Donaldson, suggested I run for the school board. So I ran for the school board, and I continue to work with the Grandparent Reading Program and any other programs. My sorority has a lot of educational programs. We get scholarships every year, and I'm so happy to know that I can reach to her, find somebody else to fill my steps in the field of education. We are desperately looking for teachers. Anybody want to come? Thank you. That will be my opening statement.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan.
Good evening. I don't necessarily need a microphone because they gave it to me. I will use it. I have a teacher's voice. I taught in Chicago for 32 years. I couldn't last to 34 to get my entire vestment. But once I left here, I went to St. Xavier where I taught for 5 years. I am the second vice president of the Chicago Area United Negro College Fund. So I work with children from preschool all the way to and through college. We're having a meeting right now at the UNCF, but I am here rather than at that meeting. I am also the vice president of a committee called SCOPE, which lobbies for education issues in Springfield for 17 South suburban districts. They are making sure that issues that affect our children are being met here in the South suburbs. So I am involved in quite a few things. I'm an ex-member of the screening committee of CUBE, which is the Council for Urban Boards of Education, which is a offshoot of the National School Board Association. And I have been on the Prairie Hill School District Board of Education for 20 consecutive years. And education is my passion. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for getting us off to a really good start. The first question for tonight will be answered by Dr. Sy, and it is, well, actually, by all of you, but you'll start. How would you describe an effective school board member? How would you describe an effective school board member?
The only inexperienced school board member gets that question first. That's wonderful, standing up here with decades of experience. I'm not intimidated at all. No, because I've been a teacher and because I serve on multiple boards, I do have some idea of an effective school board member. First of all, someone who's authentic and present. One thing that makes me an effective school board member is my willingness to be collaborative and to promote learning across generations and to hear from both our students all the way up through the people who've been educating our students for a long time. An effective school board member is also present, educated, involved, and willing to try to jump in and do what we need to do to make sure that we're putting our students and our educators. And by educators, by the way, I mean the full community, because you don't have to have a teaching degree to be an educator. Our educators are our community, so putting our students and our educators first.
Thank you. Ms. Nello? Yes, same question.
An effective school board member, first you have to come to all meetings, so be in attendance. School board members affect policy. We do not have direct involvement with what's going on in the schools. We hire one person who is the superintendent, and the superintendent runs the schools. The school board runs the policy and monitors the finances and makes sure the community is involved with what's going on in the schools. And does not try to undermine what's going on in the schools or undermine the staff, the superintendent, or micromanage.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan, your response to that question.
An effective school board member knows that we stay up in the balcony, is what they call it. We set policy and we hire one person to ensure that that policy is implemented, and that is the superintendent. We are to be collaborative with the community, with the staff, with the children. We make sure that everyone has hopefully what they need to do their individual jobs. We make sure that the teachers feel safe and secure. We make sure that the students have whatever books or technology or whatever they need so that they can learn to be effective citizens in the future, because they won't be just competing with children here in the south suburbs. They will be competing with students in other countries for the jobs that are available today. So we try to make sure we have everything available so that once they reach that milestone, they'll be ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, your response to what makes an effective school board member.
This is one of my favorite questions. I ask anybody that wants to run for the board that question, basically because I want everybody to have an understanding when they get on the board. You gotta understand what your position is, and you gotta realize that you represent the community. The community is dependent on you to educate the kids in the community. So if we asked ourselves, like the superintendent, we hire the superintendent, but we represent the community as a whole. And the community depends on us to make sure that each and every child in this community gets a good education and becomes successful in life. Also, I want to say we have to take our classes. We have continuing education classes through IASB, that's the Illinois Association of School Boards. We also have classes from other different organizations. You must get an understanding as an individual person how and what your job is. And the only way you can do that is to take those classes and learn as much as you can, because you have to bring all of that back so you can vote your conscience and make a sound decision, because the superintendent is, like she said, runs the district.
Thank you, ladies. I'd like to encourage you to speak, even though I'm the questioner. Please direct your answers to the audience. I know it's just it's understandable that you think, well, okay, she asked that, I'm going to talk to her. But no, these are the people we want to talk to, so if you can keep that in mind going forward. Next question, the first answer will be addressed by Ms. Nettles. How will you deal with the social, emotional trauma our children are experiencing as a result of the pandemic? How will you deal with the social, emotional trauma our children are experiencing as a result of the pandemic?
That is a mouthful. We are having terrible issues with our students across the country. Not only District 144, but children across the country have been so impacted by COVID and the isolation that they have felt over years of being in the house. At Prairie Hills 144, we're trying to address it by hiring social workers for every one of our buildings, psychologists where we can find them. All of our staff has been having staff development on equity and how to deal with children who are in a traumatic situation. And some of the drama that children are experiencing is really trauma that they have gone through. So we're trying to make as many inroads as possible. We have small classroom sizes, all of our staff is being informed. We have the social worker, and we're looking for more social workers and psychologists also. If we can find them, we would love to hire them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan, your answer.
Well, to piggyback on what Ms. Nettles said, our psychologist is working overtime. We only have one psychologist for the entire district because we can't find any more. That's like teachers, they're rare, okay? We have social workers in every school. We have peace rooms, which is what we call them. If a child is experiencing some trauma, that day they can go to the peace room and read and find comfort in there. We have staff development on this social emotional issue. And right now our superintendent is on her way to, is it East St. Louis, to look at a trauma center set up in a school district. So she wants to implement the same thing in our district to help our children. So we are doing as much as we can. If we could find more social workers, more psychologists, we would definitely hire them. If you know of anyone, send them our way.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor.
Great question. Right now, we are introducing restorative justice practices in our district. We're also introducing equity-focused practices in the district as well. Right now, we're working through a book. Our superintendent has a really need for reading, so she has us doing 7 mindsets. We're trying to refocus our thinking on how our children on our children's needs. Basically, right now, it's not just about education, it's education and educating the child, it's educating the whole child. Not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. We gotta look at the emotions that they come in with. Kids today have issues at home that they bring into the school. So we need to know how to address those issues. And since COVID has taken place, we have had to figure out how to, those issues have risen to the top. So before our teachers can even start to teach, they have to peel back those layers and know how to teach our kids today. So again, we gotta remember, it's not just the teachers, it's the parents, it's the teachers, it's the community members, it's everybody. That old saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
Finish what you said, you got cut off. We the village.
But you understand.
Yes, I concur with everything folks have said here on the panel. The only piece that I would add is when making decisions about policy and making decisions about where to spend funding, I think it's important that board members have a perception that includes what Kimberly Crenshaw coined a term called intersectionality. And what that means is that you're taking into account the entire person and all of the different factors that impact their identities and impact how they're coming to school. And this isn't just the students. This, again, is the full community, the educators. All of us were impacted by the pandemic, and all of us, have had social, emotional, and trauma that we need to deal with and that we need to work through. On an anecdotal note, when I was walking the streets and collecting signatures, I talked to so many parents who were just like, I don't know how to connect with my kid, and my kid is always in their phone, and like they're not speaking to me, they don't know how to connect with other people, and I feel like another, responsibility of the board is to keep in mind that like that was the way that these kids were able to connect with each other, and that was the way that they were connecting to their education. And so instead of disconnecting from technology, also joining that educational experience and empowering them to use those tools in a way that's inclusive and that promotes belonging and equity across all of the students.
I'm going to encourage our candidates to also hold the microphone right up here at your mouth. I think the sound comes across a little better. So you don't have to touch it with your mouth, obviously, but just a little closer will be helpful. All right, our next question will be answered first by Ms. Jordan, and that question is, attendance has fallen in our schools since the pandemic. What will you do to improve the attendance of our schools?
Thank you. In Prairie Hill School District, I don't think attendance since we've gone back to school has fallen. But in order, I know at each of our schools there are prizes that they give for, say, if you show up for 30 days, you get a prize, you know, or you go to the school cart and you can pick out whatever you want. There are 30 seconds aren't that fast. Anyway, we try to make sure the student wants to come to school. That's the main focus. Because if the students do not want to come to school, then they will find a reason to tell their parents their stomach hurts or their head hurts or their whatever. So if we're trying to make education fun and to reward them when they do show up, and say at the end of the year, if you have perfect attendance, just like we do with our teachers, then you get a monetary prize sometimes it's a material prize, but we do things like that to make sure that our students show up.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, your response to that question.
Good question. And the reason why I say it's a good question is because now, going forward, or I believe it is now, our funding that we get from the federal government is based on our attendance. And if our kids are not in school, there's no learning going on. But if we want to go forward, we have to find ways to get our kids in school. We have hired monitors who've even gone to the house to find out what's going on to get our kids in school. If their kids are late more than 3 or 4 times, if it becomes a habit, the superintendent will send someone out to the house to make sure they're okay and that they don't need anything. During COVID, we even took the time when the teachers were looking at the monitors, kids be asleep, we would send somebody to the house to knock on the door and ask the parents to wake them up. So that's basically, right now we have to look at our attendance as part of our funding. And if we don't, we lose our funding. Even with the state of Illinois, we have to send in our attendance for our free and reduced lunches. So a lot of our things are based on our attendance.
Thank you. Dr. Sy.
Yes. In my experience and in my research, I definitely saw that District 144 was one of the districts in Illinois that worked to try to remain open as much as possible during COVID, particularly for those students who need the shelter, the food, and so I think continuing to support policies like that are important. I've also spoken with the current administration, and one of the efforts right now is to promote us having our own bus system so that we could have more control over helping students get to and from school. And so I think continuing to support the policies that these ladies have spoken about, in addition to just kind of listening and paying attention to trends. I do know that while attendance day to day may not be an issue, there has been an issue with retention and some kids just disappearing. So there is some space there for some work.
Thank you. Ms. Nettles.
Yes, we do have some children that just disappear after the pandemic. They never return. We don't know what happened to them. We've been trying to find them. But our general attendance is relatively good. We have all types of incentives to have children come to school every day. And if they enjoy being in school, they want to come to school every day. And that's what we try to have all our staff make being in the building a fun thing to be. We have many, many after-school programs that the children are involved in. They all want to be on the numerous teams that we have available. What else? We have many, many incentives for our children to come to school. Right now, we don't have a real problem with school attendance. Just these children that disappeared after the pandemic, and we have not been able to relocate them. But those who are normal attendance come every day. We have hired community workers to go to the schools, go to the homes, and we try to involve total involvement with the entire family so that some of those issues can be avoided or addressed.
Thank you. Moving along, the next question will be answered by Ms. Taylor. First, what role should the community play in supporting the education of the children in this district? What role should the community play in supporting the education of children in this district?
Again, this is one of my favorite questions. And I say that because we need our community to come into the school. So many times I walked up to people and asked them about supporting the school. And you know what they tell me? I don't have any kids in the school, so why should I support? And I remind them, we pay you, we have raised taxes. We haven't raised taxes. This is where your tax dollars are going. You need to come into the school. We have a stakeholders dinner. We invite everybody in. Every year we do a Christmas holiday event where we open the school and we have the kids there for everybody. We serve dinner. We do a full course dinner. And then we put the kids, we have kids come in and they do their show for their parents. And then our superintendent talks about the state of the district to give the community members an idea of what's going on. We want to tell our story. We have so many things going on that nobody knows about. Right now, we just got a state-of-the-art computer lab. Oh, you see?
Lab. I would say also, additionally, another thing that we can do, the role that community plays in education, that's a huge part of what I'm hearing, like I mentioned in my opening statements, is to foster a sense and an environment of respect for children and adults as people alike. So fostering a sense of respect for children and where they are in their experiences, making sure they give opportunities for them to have voice, and then for taking accountability, as my colleague was just saying here, for everyone to take accountability for our roles in the community. So not only those of us who have children, which I have a 3-year-old, so I'm entering into that space, but also those of us who, like you're saying, like pay taxes and are engaged. Another piece that I think we could do that's, more of a low-hanging fruit is just raising awareness of the importance of things like this, conversations like this, and really giving a pulse for what is motivating the people in our community, to the ones who are engaged, what's motivating them, so that we can continue to spread that. And yeah, that's it. Presence, engagement, respect, and accountability.
The community, the school is part of the community. It's not a separate entity. As a result, we try to invite all the community members to attend many of our events. Every school has an open house every year. Every school has parent meetings twice a year, parent report card pickup. We have the town hall meeting every year. We also put out a newspaper to the entire community 3 times a year, so everybody knows what's going on in the schools. We invite people to come to our schools. We also have a parent university where our parents are able to come in and learn different classes. Very good staff members are teaching those classes to our parents, especially the math, because everybody says math has changed. But we invite all the community to come in and see what was going on. We even have parents come in and sit in some of the classes to see what school is like in 2023 versus 1912.
I agree with everything these ladies have said, but some of our community, especially those of us who are retired, can come in at any time and volunteer to assist in educating our children. We need everybody's help. Businesses, they could offer their assistance. You know, Walmart, all the other businesses that are around here, they could have, especially for our young teenagers, they could have jobs for them during the summer. That's how I started out at 16. I started working at Colonel Sanders in our neighborhood. You know, and that truly helped give me a sense of responsibility. You know, my dad didn't want me to, but I did anyway. Politicians can come in and show our students that you can be anything you want to be. So everybody in the community has a role they could play in helping to educate our students. And I'm hoping to see more of that, because believe me, even at our board meetings, I bring this up, that we need to have more input. Like in September, I think we had the stakeholders meeting where we invited businesses, politicians, everybody to come and see what we do. Come out and help us. That went over very big at the time, I think. So I'm hoping we get reap some rewards out of that.
Just reminder, ladies, if you see that stop sign, you can finish a sentence.
Keep putting it up, and I'm like, okay, stop.
Going overtime.
Just like that.
No, we are not, we're trying to be fair here. So
Okay.
please feel free to finish a sentence that really should not go on for the next
Okay.
7 lines. Okay. All right, so the next question will be answered first by Dr. Sai. What is the most challenging concern for District 144, and how will you address it? The most challenging concern for the district, and how will you address it?
Most challenging concern for the district. When I talk to folks, at least my experience when I was gathering the petitions, talking to people to get on the ballot, like the thing that came up most is what we've talked about here today too, which is the result of the pandemic and how that impacted students, both like where they are academically, but then also that social interaction with other people. And I think that, we've talked a lot about different ways to address it, but ultimately just making sure that as we make decisions about policy, we make decisions about funding, that those decisions take into account the impact that having time away from face-to-face and in school had, both on the students and the educators.
Thank you. Ms. Nettles.
Right now, District 144, one of its main challenges is staff. Teachers are hard to find. We want more teachers, we want more social workers, we want more psychologists. We are beating the bushes everywhere trying to find these teachers, going all out of state and everything. So anybody who knows anybody who wants to teach, please join us in this effort. Next is money. We never have enough. One of the reasons why we can't get the teachers is because the pay is too low. We would love to teach, give everybody $90,000 a year. We just don't have the money. Once our federal government realizes that teaching is a very vital thing, and maybe at some point in history, or future history, we will be able to pay the teachers enough where they want to teach, and we can have all of our staff up to par.
Yes, that's one of my big things. As we were in Washington in January, and we went to Senator Durbin's office, and I was telling his staff, because he wasn't there, we were talking to his staff, that we need more funding from the federal government to be able to pay our teachers more money. In private industry, let me give you an anecdote. When I retired 17 years ago, my youngest daughter was just starting out her career. She was making more starting out than I was making retiring. It didn't, that doesn't make sense, although I know she's an engineer. So what? I had to teach her how to be an engineer, okay? She didn't just jump out being an engineer. Oh, so we need to pay our teachers more. We also are interrupted learning with our students. Some students say, some students with kindergarten, say they were supposed to start kindergarten or first grade. By the time they started school, they were in second and third grade. And so that learning was interrupted. So we have to go back to kindergarten to try to teach the second grader what he should have learned 2 years ago. So that is an issue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, your question. Ms. Taylor, your thoughts?
This is a great question for myself and Ms. Jordan, because both of us are on the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. And based on the curriculum, we're focusing on the best practices that we can find to reassure that we can bring in the proper tools that we need for our teachers to help them be able to teach our children. It's all in the curriculum. It's in the professional development. It is in the equity. We were talking today about how we have to take our curriculum and realign it. You're not teaching the same thing to the kids or the way you teach them 10 years ago. We got to make sure that we get our teachers some continuing education to understand how to teach our children. Because the kids today are not like the kids of yesterday. And you can't teach the kids today the same way you taught them yesterday. Because the kids today have more issues. And we forget that our teachers also have issues. So we're so much talking about our kids, but we have to remember we have to look at our teachers as well.
Thank you. I think we've heard a little bit about this, the content of this next question, but I'd like you to go into a little more detail. And that is, what are your budget priorities? And we'll begin with Ms. Nettles.
That's interesting. I'm on the finance committee. Our budget right now, we have a very balanced budget and have had for the last, as long as I've been on the board, these 10 years. Very careful how we spend the money. During the pandemic, the federal government gave us a lot of money, which is temporary. And they told us, don't think you're going to keep getting this money. We use that money to renovate most of our buildings. We put it into hard things that won't just go away. So we have new roofs for all the buildings got new parking lots. We've done some new furnaces, classrooms, painting. We just had an audit, came out fine. We had no audit exceptions. We are very pleased with that. And we continue to do our best to use all of the money wisely. We have not raised any taxes in the 10 years that I've been on the board. So the money's being used with books, curriculum. We do have a rotating, for all of our books are rotated every 5 years. They're all new books for all classrooms every 5 years, so we keep that abreast.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan.
Well, she has mentioned everything basically that we have been doing. When I first got on the board, none of our schools were, I think Maytag was the only one that was air conditioned. I used to get calls from parents, oh my God, my kid's burning up, it's hot, you know, but every school is air conditioned now. As she said, we've even gone in and remodeled buildings right now. Markham Park is out of business while it is being remodeled. We have revamped our curriculum, making sure, as she said, that our books are the latest that are available for our students. When my child was at Prairie Hills, I got really upset. He was learning from a 25-year-old book, and that was a science book. Things have changed so much in 25 years, but you know, we're also helping with the learning loss from the pandemic. That summer school this year will be focused on those students that have experienced the most learning loss. So we are hoping that by the beginning of next school year, we will have at least caught up with some of our students in their learning losses, because that is of great concern to us.
Ms. Taylor?
As a board, we sit down with the superintendent and we do a 10-year study on what we need to have done in our district. From that study, we prioritize what needs to be done. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, we had just did that study and we determined that, first of all, the things that they wanted to do was get air conditioning in our schools. Then we went to remodeling our schools. We do this 10-year study every 10 years, and at the end of the 10 years, as we're coming up, and we are coming to the end of it now, we determine what's the next step we're going to take and how we're going to prioritize it. The next step we're getting ready to take, like she said, we're in the middle of remodeling. We're remodeling our schools now, upgrading our technology, so that our kids can have the best that they need for their schools. One school just got doors because it was built in Chateau was built in 1972. It didn't have air conditioning. Like they said, all our schools have all the roofs have been done. All of that is part of our 10-year study. Now, we have to do the next 10-year study. And as far as the next 10-year study, we have yet to sit down to determine what we're going to do. But right now, it's focused on remodeling and upgrading.
Only piece I would add or kind of expand on is I understand that the STEAM Academy is intending to extend down to preschool, so I see that as a budgetary priority in short term. Also mentioned earlier the transportation piece for students, and I think everyone else mentioned everything I have here.
Next, I know someone mentioned the fact that some of the funding from the schools come from the state and that's based on student attendance. But would you explain to the audience where the rest of the money to fund our schools comes from?
The money, as we stated before, we have state, and that's basically your property taxes that the state is sending back to not just the schools, but park districts, municipalities, if you look at you got your tax bill about 2 weeks ago, and if you look at it, it breaks down how much every entity gets from property taxes. Also, the federal government, like was stated earlier, we got a lot of ESSERS money is what it's called. And it's helping us tremendously to bring our buildings up to code. We also get our staff writes for grants, and we have received about $2 million in grants in the last, I'd say 3-4 years, because they are constantly, every time they see a grant, they're writing for us to help us to do the things we have to do for our kids. So that's basically where our money is coming from.
I'm thinking about what I want to say because they actually touched on everything. What I do want to say, unfortunately, we have 2,800 students in our district right now. And I'm going to say we are a poverty district. We're considered a poverty district. And a lot of our money comes from free from the federal government for free and reduced lunch. And we have what's called Title I grant. And again, that too is because of the poverty-stricken portion of our district, which is based on. Unfortunately, we don't like hearing it, but that's the truth, and that's what we have right now. So that's where the bulk of our money, and the bulk of our money is spent on teachers, and then it goes down from there. So it's interesting to see what we've had to do in the past years about going out there and getting grants and writing grants. We've had some superintendents that have to go and become grant writers so that they can understand how to write a grant for our district. I'm on the technology committee. Again, we were just talking about that today, where
Yes, so, taxes, grants, initiatives. One thing I value is that the fees are very minor for parents and families, at least from what I've seen here. And then the only other piece that I feel like it could help, potentially attract those of you in YouTube land, millionaires, billionaires watching, donations and endowments, for specific initiatives, 501c3 tax deductible donations, amen.
I'm going to dovetail on all those billionaires to send us some money also. Most of our money, though, comes from title money, from federal government, from state money, from your property taxes. We try to not raise property taxes, but that does provide our funding. We're very fortunate to have a very gifted staff with writing the grants. Those grants have been wonderful. They have kept us up to par with all of our technology. Every kid in the building in all the buildings, have a device, some electronic device, a tablet, a computer, a Chromebook. But that's where the money comes from. And anybody who wants to donate, I would like to take this time to thank all those persons who donated. Our 8th graders are going to Washington, D.C. And we had a lot of people donate the money, so those children do not have to pay anything. It's a free ride to Washington, D.C. to see where the seat of the government is and all those things that come with it. So thank you to all of you who donated.
very much. Our last question of the evening before you do your closing statements is maybe you might consider it a lighthearted question, but interested in hearing your response to this. One of our questioners asks, well, since we've got air conditioning in our schools, why not have school in the summer and take off winter?
Well,
Ms. Taylor, yeah, Ms. Taylor.
That is interesting. To me, we were just talking about having school, what was it? We were just talking about how it would be to have school all year round. And we were trying to figure out if we did it, if we could, and how it would affect us, and whether the teachers union would let us do it. But right now, I think the summertime is, honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. The summertime is for kids to have fun. It's for vacation. It's a known fact that you have to give kids an out. Like the parents need vacation from their jobs, the kids need vacation. And what better time to do it than in school? I do believe in summer school, but summer school is for enrichment. It's not for every day. I mean, that we have a summer enrichment program that we promote, and we have a waiting list for that every year. I think that would be enough for the kids. Let them enjoy some portion of the summer.
Agreed. Also, I don't know who's gonna watch my child then. Like in the winter, because everybody's at home, I still have to go to work, and then society, everybody else is at school, so we should probably just not add anymore. We haven't had a lot of change the last few years. We should probably.
okay. Well, we have a very active Sunday school program. Right now, school's out in May. Summer school's the entire month of June and a little bit of July. So those are the hot months, so we can use the air conditioning then. We did consider year-round school. Chicago tried that for a while. It was very unsuccessful. So that doesn't mean that it can't be tried again someplace else. But we have to consider the staff and the parents and the system of who watches my child while I am at work, which is not what school is about, but that's part of the issues that we have to deal with. So even though we have air conditioning, we want them comfortable while they're there. We probably won't go into a wintertime break, although we have winter break. This year we'll have almost 3 weeks off. Christmas is going to fall on a Monday, so we have a few weeks off. That will be the vacation time for the winter time.
I am totally against summer school, okay? Children need to breathe. My daughter, the oldest one, she has 4 kids, they are always in something. Basketball, cheerleading, baseball, ballet, they are overscheduled. I said, in the summertime, Chris, they need to, if they don't do anything but lay in the grass and look up at the clouds, they need some downtime. Just like we need downtime. But she still keeps them so busy.
Thank you, ladies. So now we begin the final portion of our forum in which you will sum up your thoughts and why you want to be a board member and anything else you would like to say in your closing statement. And we're going in reverse order. So Ms. Jordan, since you were last, with your opening statement, you'll begin.
2 minutes.
Oh, yes, you can have up to 2 minutes.
Up to
if you
2
choose it.
Thank you. I am running again for the school board, although you will not see our names, my name, Ms. Nettles' name, or Ms. Taylor's name on the ballot because we are write-in candidates. I will not go into why that is, but we are write-in candidates, and you must go to the bottom of the list, pull, I think there's a tab or something you punch, and then the drop-down list will come and you write our names into the ballot. But I want to run because I want to, what I've started, I want to finish. And I believe this will be my last term on the school board. But when I got on the school board, it was nothing like it is today. Our children were not even aware of technology 20 years ago. And I said, why are we teaching our kids technology skills that they will need in the future? But they finally got on board with that. Why aren't we having a parent forum so we can get our parents out here? 1,000 parents showed up once we started doing that. There are so many things. The STEAM Academy, I want to see that up and running really to its full capacity. Because that was another thing that I was big on, that STEAM Academy. Well, I wanted STEM, but Dr. Patterson wanted STEAM, so we got the STEAM Academy. But I want that running to its fullest effect. And I have to be around to see that happen. 15 seconds, okay. That's why I am running, to make sure our kids get the best education possible.
Likewise, I have been in education my entire life. I think I want to go out with that same concept. Working with children has been my passion. And working with staff has even been my passion. I enjoy it. I believe I am effective. I have tried to give ideas that have been implemented to make our children, to give our children an opportunity. I look at every child as possibly my next pharmacist. You never know what a pharmacist does till you start taking medicine. And you want the absolute best. So every child in my eye is potential for as much as they could be. My grandchildren, and I now have a great-grandchild, one, bless her heart. So I enjoy what I'm doing, and I think I'm effective. I would like to continue.
I just want to thank everybody, lots of you who are here tonight, for staying engaged and really for those who will watch the video as well, for giving the space. One of my favorite quotes by Audre Lorde is, "If I didn't define myself for myself, I'd be crunched into other people's fantasies of me and eaten alive," and nobody wants to be eaten alive. So I thank you for the space to define myself and define my platform for myself. And along those lines, I think that what makes me a strong candidate for the school board is my willingness to give other people space to define themselves for themselves. Not only do I come with the expertise and experience that I can bring to make informed decisions, I come with passion and dedication to my community. And so if you don't vote for me, please vote. And please vote for the people that you feel are going to be most informed and make decisions based on the future of our community. That's it.
Ms. Taylor?
Okay, we have started a legacy here in District 144. I want to say we have stabilized district leadership right now. Prairie Hill School Board 144, we've done a rebranding. We're not the same district that we were 10 years ago. We're not the same district that we were a month ago. We have an annual budget increase from 44 million to 64 million. We have updated all our facilities. We have two of our elementary school buildings have been fully remodeled. We have self-serve kitchens now. A lot of schools don't have that. They're still getting prepackaged meals from Preferred Meals. We have enhanced our extracurricular activities throughout the school, not just the junior high. We have a district parents academy. We have a computer lab, a multi-million-dollar computer lab that anybody in the community can use. These are only just a few of the things that we are doing now in our district. And I want to be here to continue what we've started. I started in 2015, this is 2023. And I'm asking you all to write me in so we can continue our movement in our district forward. We have some dynamic things going on. I'm asking and I'm inviting each and every one of you all here, come to our district, see what we've done, see what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. You've really enlightened us immensely, and we certainly hope that there will be thousands out there who will watch this YouTube to hear it right out of your mouths. It's very important that the community become engaged in this way. And we thank you for your time this evening, and I want to compliment the audience. We appreciate our attentive audience, and you know, the League prides ourselves on holding what we consider very civilized group gatherings, and we appreciate our audience very much too. So again, another round of applause, please.